Okay, female external structures. Okay, so what we're looking at in this picture, where I've actually had a student who compared this picture to maybe a woman riding on the hood of a car naked going through a car wash. I thought that was a pretty funny visual because it's kind of a dramatic picture here. What we're mostly looking at is the vulva. The vulva are all the external structures that can be seen without any kind of like intrusion, no speculums or anything like that. So that's the scientific term for the group. Now at the very top, the area that is oftentimes in an adult female covered in pubic hair would be called the Mons Veneris. And this area has a pad of fat that's designed to cushion the pubic bone that's right underneath the Mons Veneris. A lot of times women feel self-conscious about that fat pad, but it's present in mature females and even in younger females to protect the pubic bone from injury. The labia majora would be the labia means lips and majora means bigger. So these would be the outer lips that are in most adult females covered in pubic hair. Inside of that would be the labia minora. So those would be the inner lips. And in this picture, they're open so we can see the other structures. But in an unaroused, normally walking around woman, the labia minora tend to be sort of friction sealed together. So that this isn't what a typical unaroused woman would usually look like. The clitoral hood is this structure that's kind of analogous to the foreskin on a male. Kind of analogous to it. It kind of functions differently in arousal. The foreskin of the male withdraws during arousal. The clitoral hood for a woman actually covers the clitoris during arousal. So it sort of works differently. But the structures are very similar. And we're going to see later that these body parts that we think are the only things that make us different from one another are actually, they start from the exact same structures, and only through the addition or subtraction of hormones do we get different structures. So this is basically from the same structure as the foreskin. Under the clitoral hood would be the clitoral glans. Now from this view, it looks like you've got a very tiny little clitoris, very barely can be seen. It's just the glands that we're seeing right now, and it's very analogous to the glands of the penis. It's got the same basic structure as the glands of a penis. The vast majority of the clitoris is actually under the clitoral hood and embedded in her actual body. The urethral opening is the next structure there. That's where urine's going to pass through. And then under that is the vaginal opening. And this vagina has sort of an uneven opening to it, kind of implying that she might still have part of her hymen intact. We'll talk about hymens in a second. So let's go to hymens next. Okay, variations in hymen. Okay, here we have what's called an annular hymen, and this is a hymen that's very circular in its opening. It doesn't have a lot of jagged aspects or anything. This one's called a septate hymen. You might be aware that the division in your nose between the two nostrils is called a septum. So we have a hymen that has basically a septum between it, and it's just a strip of skin. It's not going up into her vagina or anything like that. It's just a strip of skin. This is called a cribriform hymen, where you've got a lot of skin covering the opening of the vagina and just little perforations that would allow menstrual flow to pass and things like that. But it might cause problems with some of the clots that may come out during menstruation. And then we have what oftentimes, really commonly, hymens will look like. We call this paris because it's still intact. This person has not had any kind of penetration by anything large enough to have actually taken torn the hymen and pushed it to the side. The hymens are a really interesting thing. I was just watching an old movie, and the girl was saying, oh, he's willing to marry me even though I'm soiled, because she got raped, and she's like, even though I've been soiled, he's willing to marry me. There's been so much attached to women's hymens and their purity and their value as women over time. and for some women that are not attracted to men, they're never planning on having penetration by a penis, yet I don't think we would call them virgins if they've had sexual contact over their lifetime, right? It's a really interesting thing how we have connected, penile vaginal sex and the value of the woman and all sorts of really weird things. The thing that makes it really weird is that not all women have hymens. And so even if a woman has never had sex in her life, she may not bleed at first intercourse because she doesn't have a hymen. And it's not because she gave it away or it was already broken or something like that. It's because she literally was born without one. So it's kind of an interesting thing. This gets into like the sociology of human sexuality and how these kinds of values get placed on people based on things that they have, minimal control over, no control over, things that shouldn't matter in the big picture. It's really an interesting thing, but we're not going to bog down in this anatomy chapter. We are going to bog down just for a second on something that's kind of gruesome, which is female genital mutilation. And like I said back in the chapter on circumcision, a lot of people liken circumcision to female genital mutilation, but the procedures are significantly different and the intent is significantly different. These are some countries that practice female genital mutilation pretty commonly, and the more red the country, the more women who have had this done. And these are procedures that are intended to alter or cause injury to the female genital organs. And it's not for any kind of argument